LIV has been an absolute godsend for the evolution of golf. Or if you're on the PGA side, then it's literally the devil reincarnate, and it's gonna destroy the sport. Whichever way you look at it though, you can't deny the impact it's had on the game and the PGA Tour. So in today's video, we're gonna look at the inside story of how this feud actually started. Let's dive in. First up, the rise of LIV in a post-pandemic world. Golf was a different game back in 2020. Not only was the PGA Tour struggling due to all the event cancellations, but everything just felt like it had been a bit stale for a while. The era of the Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroys of the world seemed to be coming to an end, and the fans desperately wanted something radical to happen. In comes Greg Norman. Still feeling the anger from his failed attempt to set up a world golf tour in the 90s, the Australian was back with a vengeance. Except this time around, he had a financial backing from Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. So he grabbed his bag full of cash and started knocking on PGA Tour members' doors. Now at this point, the tour was fully aware of what was happening and was already frantically trying to get its members to pledge allegiance. And to be fair, many of them did. Still, the allure of unlimited cash and an extended holiday was way too much for these golfers to ignore, which of course resulted in a mass exodus. Obviously, there were those who were still on the fence about the whole thing. In fact, at one point, Sergio Garcia even texted Norman saying that younger players were their pants, as they didn't want to be suspended by the tour. But, well, suspensions were going to be the least of their worries for now, because their links to the Saudi government were enough to cause a storm. Up next, the PGA Tour clamps down hard on defectors. Now at this point, we were finally starting to get into the groove of things. LIV had a plan. It wanted to dominate the sport and end the tour's reign once and for all. Though, of course, some more hurdles were waiting for them before any of that could happen. Sure, they had 24 players, but they didn't anticipate what was going to happen next. Alan Shipnuck posted an excerpt from his Mickelson biography in which the league's star golfer called the Saudis scary mother and acknowledged that they have a horrible human rights track record. The quote was everywhere, with Mickelson going into hiding and Norman pleading in front of his Saudi investors to give him another chance. It was all a big mess. Oh, and the PGA Tour, while seeing its new rivals struggling to stay up, it doubled down and made its stars like Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson pledge allegiance. Over the next few days, it almost felt like LIV was gonna poof away before it had even had a chance to get going. So much so that McIlroy mentioned how it was dead in the water. But, of course, Norman wasn't going to let that happen again. Against all odds, LIV Golf weathered the storm and ended up nabbing not only DeChambeau, but also Dustin Johnson. This right here was a massive statement. Oh, and the tour was not happy. So, guess what they did? Of course, they pulled the lever and started suspending all defectors. Coming up, how did LIV Golf pull itself out of the pit? Alright, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Seriously, just think about it. How could LIV Golf, which was pronounced dead by Rory McIlroy, manage to make such a miraculous recovery? Well, the answer's simple. Money talks. Amidst all this chaos and crisis, Norman somehow managed to secure an even bigger funding package, which allowed him to throw obscene amounts of cash at the PGA Tour's biggest stars. And of course, a lot of them just couldn't resist. Seriously, imagine being told that, no matter how badly you play during an event, you're still gonna walk away with millions of dollars in your pocket. Sounds too good to be true, right? For LIV golfers, however, this was the new reality. Oh, and then there was the league's big focus on making golf fun again. You know, golf, but louder. And that sort of seemed to get a reaction out of most people as well. Now, of course, this wasn't clean money by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the league's first few events were plagued with allegations of sports washing, and even protests from families of 9/11 victims. Though later on, LIV did find some evidence that the PGA Tour may have been involved in throwing some of this dirty laundry their way. Here's the real kicker though. To sign players from the tour, Norman took an insanely aggressive approach. He went to the golfer's agent, made him an offer that was beyond his wildest dreams, and then told him it wouldn't stand the following day. So he sort of just signed players at breakneck speeds. Now for the PGA Tour's rebuttal. All this money was a major issue for the tour. $200 million for Mickelson, 125 for Johnson, and another 100 for Brooks Koepka. These numbers were unlike anything anyone had ever seen within the sport, and the PGA Tour certainly couldn't match them. Still, there had to be some solution, right? After all, literally everyone was wondering if the tour had been underpaying its golfers all along. Like, sure, they can't give $200 million contracts. At the same time, the tour is massive and could certainly afford to spend a bit more money on its star players. So, to stop more players from defecting and running away, the PGA Tour's Commissioner Jay Monahan got into action and vowed to make things right. Of course, let's not forget, he had already done some stuff in the past to alleviate these fears, like raising the FedEx Cup's top prize from $10 million to $18 million. Plus, 2021 saw the introduction of the Player Impact Program too. Nothing was quite enough for the insane headway that LIV had made into the golfing hierarchy though, and something much more radical was required. So guess what? The tour fought back. The PIP was doubled to $100 million, and every single PGA Tour member was guaranteed a $500K salary. Plus, of course, we got all those elevated events that rival the Saudi League in terms of their massive prize pools. And guess what? Somehow, LIV still had the last laugh, as Taylor Gooch, representing his fellow members, said you're welcome to the PGA Tour players. Moving on, how did LIV target the tour? Now, let's get away from the money for a bit and talk about the sport itself. You see, even if you remove the cash from the equation, the Saudi League still holds some relevance. Sounds crazy, right? Hear us out for a sec though. If you actually look at what the Saudis are doing here, it's extremely fascinating. They're involved in a bunch of sports from soccer to wrestling, but golf is the only one that they're trying to redefine. Have you ever wondered why? Well, here's a simple answer. They saw a weakness. Yep, according to them, the PGA Tour had been stale for a very long time, and if pitted against the right product, could actually lose its dominance as well. So they targeted the very foundation that the tour is built upon, its format. The objective? Cut the fluff and keep the good stuff. The tournaments got shorter from 72 holes to 54. Plus, the pace of the golf was also increased thanks to the shotgun start. It was almost as if someone had brought some turbo mode to the game, just like a T20 format in cricket. What's more, they also brought teams into play, which would mean people could align themselves with a group rather than a single player. Oh, and this year, that's going to turn into a full NFL-like franchise format. The point is, LIV investors want to cater to not only younger audiences, but just modern sports audiences that watch stuff like the NBA or NFL, and they don't think the PGA can fight back. Following up, tradition and legacy. Obviously, the tour isn't just going to sit back and watch while LIV continues to attack its ways over and over again, but rather than fight back, they've taken a rather fascinating approach. Sure, they've increased the prize pool, brought Tiger Woods to the forefront, and strengthened their position overall. At the center of it all, however, are two words they keep repeating: tradition and legacy. For this tour, this is the thing that separates them from the Saudi League, and no matter how many millions of dollars they keep spending on players, they can never earn this. And to be fair, they've got a point here that not even Greg Norman can argue against. Seriously, think of any sport's greatest stage: the Super Bowl, Wimbledon, the Champions League. It's all fueled by tradition and legacy, and that's how you stay relevant against an opponent who's got unlimited cash. Not to mention, the new age LIV players still don't know if they're ever going to be embraced by traditional golfing entities like Augusta National. Sure, they may allow entry, but truly accepting you is a whole other thing. Finally, the tours endure. In spite of the fact that both LIV Golf and the PGA Tour have brought out their entire arsenals to destroy each other, they're still stuck in this stalemate. Antitrust lawsuits, controversy, suspensions, nothing's been able to put an end to this feud. And for golf fans, that's a good thing. After all, with this sort of competition, they're both improving. Plus, we get to watch top-class competitions as well. Though, the situation's a bit more tricky if you're an actual golfer though. There are now actual stakes to being on either side, as every single decision, whether it's made in court or by one of the clubs that run the majors, changes the trajectory of their careers. And then there's the whole issue of official world golf ranking points too, as LIV players continue to slip down the order. Then again, perhaps that's the price you gotta pay for a lifetime supply of cash. In the past, golfers would settle their differences by teeing off against each other, but now courts will be determining the future of the game. In the end though, it's all chaos, and no one knows what's gonna happen. So let's just cross our fingers and hope for the best. That's a wrap wrap for this video. Where do you see this LIV versus PGA Tour feud going 1 year from now? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.